In the misty corridors of history, one of the most ancient questions humanity has asked about its own origin echoes. Who are we, and where do we come from? At the heart of this question stands a mysterious character, Adam, who appears as a common figure in the sacred texts of the three great Abrahamic religions. For generations, we have been taught that he was a single historical individual, the ancestor of all humanity. But what if this story is only the surface? What if the word Adam lost its true meaning over thousands of years and began to be simply described as the name of the first created human? And because of this, we are overlooking a much deeper issue. Today, together, we will delve as deeply as possible into the origins of the word Adam and the essence of what it represents. And probably your perspective on the name Adam will change much more profoundly, because here, we will not be talking about a single individual, but about humanity as a whole. Welcome to Find the Truth. The story told for hundreds of years is extremely simple. God decides to create man as a caliph on earth, and the Quran narrates the creation of humanity to us in a way rooted in a few different narratives, in some verses as from clay, in others as from water, and in others as from nutfa, a drop sperm. You also see similar narratives in other Abrahamic religions and even the most ancient roots of this narrative in more ancient civilizations like Sumer in India. But the common point never changes. The word that we know today as Adam somehow always comes up. In this video, we will not question the existence or non-existence of this religious concept. After all, since there is a reality of humanity, it must have an origin, right? Whether you say that God or gods, based on religions or myths, created man, or you say that everything developed by chance, certain evolutionary leaps occurred, and man emerged, or you combine the two in some way and make your decision, this is your personal preference. But as I said, today's topic is not this. Today, we will together explore the depth behind the intertwined story, and especially the word, which is generally explained more simply nowadays. Because if you love history like me, that's where the real excitement begins. As I just said, when we hear the name Adam, we usually think of a single person, the first human. However, what if Adam is actually a symbol representing the entire human species, rather than a single individual? This is where our journey begins with this question. The origin of the word Adam already begins to give us clues. In Hebrew, Adam means human, and it is often used to express the entire human species, not just a person. In the first book of the Torah, Genesis, when God creates man, the word Adam is used for the human species without distinction between male and female. For example, in Genesis 1:27, it is said, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them," while the word used for man in the original Hebrew text is Adam, and this refers to humanity as a whole. It is not separated into male and female, as in the translations. Moreover, it is later stated in the Torah, God blessed them and called them Adam when they were created. Here too, Adam is used as a name for humanity, encompassing both male and female. Therefore, the term Adam is more like the name of a species than a proper noun from the very beginning. Indeed, a commentary in the 1911 Britannica Encyclopedia emphasized that the use of the name Adam as a proper noun was an early mistake, and that Adam, the word Adam, actually indicated the human species. The clues of the word Adam in Hebrew are not limited to this. The word is connected to Adama, meaning earth or ground. In Genesis 2:7, it is said that God formed Adam from the dust of the ground. Here, Adama, the ground, and Adam, the human, are connected through a wordplay. Thus, the name of Adam is directly identified with the earth, the world. This further emerges as an indication that Adam, beyond being an individual, ontologically represents the earthly humanity, meaning a species directly on this planet. When we come to Arabic, the same word appears. The name Adam itself likely passed into Arabic as a borrowing from Hebrew, and similarly, it is associated with the color of the earth, or the earth ground. Some Islamic scholars associate the word Adam with Adam, the surface of the earth, or Adamul Arts, the surface of the ground. This is also an approach that aligns with the belief that man was created from the earth. According to some Islamic writings, God created Adam from a clay gathered from the different colored soils of the earth. It is explained that this is why humanity has various colors such as black, white, and red. Remember that we are not conducting a scientific analysis here. Those who are curious about that part can watch my video on evolution and creation. Here, we are on an etymological historical journey. As seen linguistically, Adam emerges as the concept of a human coming from the ground, from the earth, rather than a specific person's name. That is, the idea of the worldly human has been processed in the etymology of the name throughout the ages. Let's go back further and examine the first civilizations of the region. When we look at the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian myths, the word we know as Adam usually appears as Adapa and Adamo, and there is a nice distinction here. In myths, when referring to humanity, we generally see the term Adamu, and Adamu literally translates to the created species. That is, according to those beliefs, since the gods created us to serve them in their daily tasks, they found it appropriate to generally call us Adamu, meaning the created species. Adapa, on the other hand, describes the first wise human, chosen from within this species, specifically by Enki, who, according to the myths, designed us, and with whom divine wisdom was shared. So, Adapa is probably a proper name, but the origin of the word Adam leads back to Adamu. For example, after the discovery of the Sumerian king list, the researcher John Botere beautifully captured this distinction, and he explained that Adapa, who is listed as the first human king in that list, was a priest king and reigned in the city of Eridu for thousands of years. We see the examples of Adapa and Adamo I just gave more in the post-Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian contexts. Because in Sumer, a different root word actually appears for this species, Namlu, which, if we translate it exactly, means the human species created from mud, from clay. Those who follow the channel know what clay signifies. Surprising, isn't it? I wanted to emphasize this root meaning of the word so much at the beginning of the video, because now we will examine the stories and narratives found in the books of the Abrahamic religions. And this time, consider the word not as Adam, a single person as we were told, but as a word representing humanity as a whole, as I mentioned before. Because in that way, the event will start to move to very different places, and the deeper meanings in the books will begin to emerge. When we examine the books of the Abrahamic religions in sequence, we actually see different Adam narratives emerge, and there is a historically pleasant nuance here, I think. Let's start with the Torah. The book of Genesis, the fundamental text of Judaism, presents the story of Adam with two different and, at first glance, contradictory narratives. This structural duality has an interesting reason. When we look at Genesis 1, this chapter describes a magnificent and orderly process of creation. The divine being referred to as Elohim, which is actually a plural creator form, and, although usually translated as God, is sometimes used by the Jewish rabbinic tradition to refer to a divine council composed of angels. Even their children, called Bene Elohim, find a place in the Torah. Yes, there is no need to soften it by saying angel or something. When you dig into it, you find the story of the Sumerian Anunnaki gods. This group, referred to as Elohim, but which essentially refers to a community rather than a single god, declares in the Torah that they created humanity in their own image. And the verse in the book says, they created them male and female. So, the narrative that Adam was created first, then got bored, and Eve was created from his rib, does not initially appear. The creation of the female and male as a species is narrated. In Genesis 2, the narrative takes a more cinematic and earth-focused turn. A singular Lord God, referred to by the name Yah, appears. He shapes a single Adam from the dust of the ground, breathes the breath of life into him, and later creates a woman from his side, which is usually translated as a rib. This is an individual and gradual creation story, and this is the story that most of us generally know. Those expulsions from paradise, dramatic events, and so on, all begin to appear in this chapter, and we encounter Adam, used to refer to a male, and Eve, used to refer to a female, as the main protagonists. Now, when you ask why there are two different creation narratives here, the greatest problem, which is human intervention, arises. Today, this difference in creation, and even the differing creator God, is a subject of debate among Jews, and the main reason for this is the fundamental differences between the Yahwist and priestly sources within Judaism. If you ask what this is, one approach is the one that wrote the Torah with its information from the Babylonian captivity, and the other is the Torah approach written with the tribe of Judah that seized power after the Persian period. And these two differences cause such big problems that those of you who have read the Torah might have noticed this. And this problem peaks, as you just saw, especially in the narrative of the creation of man. Indeed, the theologian John Walton draws attention to the different usages in the Hebrew text, saying, in Hebrew, the definite article, H2, is not used with proper nouns. If H2 is present, it is not a proper noun, but refers to a species, a community. Thus, according to this approach, we see that the word Adam was used as a species even in the original approach. But over time, this story began to be presented to the Jews with individual meanings. Perhaps one of the verses that best shows that the essence is actually the species is Genesis 5:2, which states, God named them Adam, human. Starting from here, we see that the story of Cain and Abel begins to change. Because in the normal classical narrative, Adam and Eve descend to earth, they reproduce repeatedly, and somehow, all humanity multiplies from two people. However, scientifically, in such a case of incest, a species called humanity should not exist today, because we are talking about an event that is impossible according to the nature of things, and logic disappears. However, if we approach the event with the essential word meaning of humanity, the story logically falls into place, and the story of Cain and Abel turns into the story of two different communities instead of the story of two brothers killing each other. According to the Torah, Cain, the son of Adam, kills his brother Abel and is driven by God to the land of Nod. And the Torah also says that there, Cain knew his wife, meaning he married. According to that most basic and, I think, shallow narrative, there were only 4 people in the world, and one dies. Well then, who was the wife Cain found and married in the land he was banished to? Furthermore, the verse continues, Cain fears those who might kill him in the place he goes, and God puts a mark on him to protect him. Moreover, Cain even builds a city there. Now, even a single verse contains a contradiction from top to bottom, according to the classical approach, doesn't it? But if we consider this as a species, not an individual, that contradiction ends. If we take Adam as the species and the others as communities, instead of the approach that there were 4 people in the world, Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel, the pieces fall into place. And the narrative you will see in both the Torah and, in a moment, the Quran gains meaning logically. In summary, these problems arise because the Torah has been revised many times in the hands of the Jews, and even in the hands of different Jewish sects. But if we remain faithful to the original narrative and symbolism, we can at least grasp the main theme behind a massive information complexity. That is, the fact that Adam is not a person, but the name of humanity as a whole. Let's move on to the Quran and Islam. When examining such subtopics in the Quran, my advice to you is to examine the verses according to the order of revelation, to better understand the temporal chronology and change. For example, here too, this difference emerges as an important detail, because if we approach the event according to normal translations, the word Adam first appears in the Surah Al-Baqarah with a meaning that describes an individual more, while when we look at the order of revelation, it appears in the Surah Al-Araf as follows, "And we have certainly created you, then given you shape, then we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam. So they prostrated, except for Iblis. He was not of those who prostrated." What makes the difference here is the word Adam in Arabic. Normally, before the Quran, and during the time of its revelation, Adam was not a word used as a proper noun in that region. As an Arabic root, it appears as a word carrying the meanings of Adim, surface of the world, earth, a being created from the earth. And now read the verse again with this essential root meaning. In the Quran, in most places it is said, "We created you." According to some approaches, there are those who translate this as Allah referring to himself in the third person plural. Or, because the message was conveyed by Gabriel, there are those who say that we refers to a kind of council of angels, including himself. Just like the plural Elohim example in the Torah, the approach here is up to you. But you may recall that in my Quran video, I explained the different approach regarding the concepts of I, we, and he. Afterward, in Surah Al-Araf, another verse gives us information, O children of Adam, which appears very appropriately as the Arabic equivalent of the word insanoglu, son of man, that we use today to define our own species. Let's continue to delve deeper. Many Muslims assume and keep thinking that the Quran mentions a woman named Eve as Adam's wife. They even adopted her as our mother Eve, and so on. However, the word Eve, Hava, does not appear in the Quran. The term Adam's wife also does not appear. Eve is a word of completely Jewish origin. And even among them, its meaning is divided into 2. Hava, Eve is a word in Hebrew meaning life giver, source of life. And according to the Torah, the Lord God does not give her this name. In the Torah, when God sees Adam alone, he creates an Isha, woman, from his rib. That is, taking it fundamentally, it speaks of the creation of the female of the human species. Thus, if we take it in the context of our subject, the male and female of the species are created, and because the female is productive and gives birth to children, she is called Hava, meaning life giver. However, later in the Torah, the story of Eve is placed in a very individual narrative style, and she is reduced to the figure of the woman who misguided Adam to eat the apple, followed Satan, and is trampled upon. Long live the patriarchal religious system, right? Let's continue where we left off with the Quran. As I said, you cannot find the word or name Eve even once in the Quran, and the book insistently narrates this couple to us as Adam and his wife. This is why the story of the expulsion from paradise in the Quran is different from the Torah in a small but significant way in terms of meaning. There is no narrative in the Quran, like, the woman made him eat the apple, he went astray. The verse narrates that Adam and his wife succumbed to Satan's trick, ate the fruit of the tree, and wronged themselves. That is, no distinction is made between man and woman. In fact, in Surah Taha, it is written, "After they ate from the forbidden tree, their shameful parts became exposed, and Adam disobeyed his Lord." Thus, the message is conveyed that humanity as a whole disobeyed the Lord without mentioning his wife. Now, if you are among those who ask why it is taken as humanity as a whole without mentioning his wife, we need to look at the alternative meaning of that tree and its fruit. If you really think that the event is about two people eating the apple of a forbidden apple tree in paradise and failing a test, the event will remain shallow again. But you will better understand that the tree, for which the word shajara, lineage, ancestry, is used in the Arabic Quran, is a forbidden lineage, and because Adam and his wife, that is, humanity, established a relationship with that forbidden lineage, God banished them and told them, "Go down to earth, being enemies to one another." Even Satan, according to the narrative, says, "If you approach that tree, that lineage, you will become like angels, you will become wise." Do you think this entire narrative emerged because they ate a juicy red fruit, or because of the human species merging with a forbidden, different species? The decision is yours now. There are videos on the channel that detail all these events. I will leave the links in the description section below. You can watch them and direct your research accordingly. Now, for those who ask why Adam is referred to as both a lineage and, according to some approaches, an individual, and even the first caliph in the Quran, it is not possible to give a clear answer due to the nature of the situation and the conditions of our country. Because the Quran is a book that does not go into much detail, and some words can carry very broad meanings. And even more importantly, if you see the Quran not as a book that descended from the sky, as a divine and singular source, but as part of the development of the history of religions, the possibility emerges that it combined and narrated different stories from ancient Mesopotamian religions and narratives. For example, a similar example is the passage, "Allah taught Adam all the names." However, the exact same narrative also appears in a Sumerian text thousands of years before the Quran, stating, "Enki gave Adapa sacred knowledge." And we certainly created man out of dry clay from an altered black mud. The goddess Ninursag needs the clay, the mud. With Enki's wisdom, she shapes the first human. Enki gave Adapa, the son of man, wisdom, but he did not give him eternal life. When your Lord said to the angels, "Indeed, I will make upon the earth a caliph." Adapa, chosen by Enki, the first wise man, sat on the throne of Eridu and became the guide of the people. You can find various other similarities like these, and it is with this approach that researchers and writers like Samuel Kramer, Tolkien Jacobson, and John Botero claim that these narratives in the Torah, Bible, and Quran are actually based on Sumerian legends. This part is, of course, related to your belief. Whether you call the Quran a divine message or a book where past information was evaluated is up to you. But whatever you choose, it does not change the subject we are discussing today. The story where the word Adam, regardless of the religion or perspective we approach the event from, is banished from paradise because he and his wife ate an apple, and two people formed all the people in the world, seems less correct to me than the state where a species was specially created for the planet Earth, called Ademoglu, son of Adam, man, for this species, and then our story on this earth began. And etymologically, the story is precisely consistent and gains logic, regardless of whether it is Arabic, Hebrew, Akkadian, Babylonian, or Sumerian. Also, the matter comes within a certain framework, both scientifically and logically. As I said, there is no debate here about right or wrong, lie or truth. Here, there is either a narrative taken symbolically without going into its details, or there is a concern to better understand the message in the books and in history by approaching it etymologically and with the essential meaning of the word. I hope this has been useful for those who like to research these topics. As I mentioned in the video, there are many videos on the channel that will develop your research or curiosity about these topics, and almost all of them are interconnected. When you click on the description section of the videos and scroll down the screen, you will see links or playlists for some videos related to the video you are watching. You can continue your series from there. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.